Abstentions? We have 2 abstentions. We have the remainder voting for. The motion is passed. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, which is the application for Fields in Trust Deed of Dedication for the land of Gibraltar Walk, Wickford. I believe Mr Brace is presenting the report.
Thank you, Chairman. At the Policy and Resources Committee in July, officers were instructed to look at an option to protect the land at Wick Green as quickly as possible. Within the report, we have shown what we have looked at and what is deliverable in the shortest timescale, and that is Fields in Trust. We have made a Fields in Trust application before as an authority, and that was for Van Chill Recreation Ground, which was successful and continues to be protected today. So what members will be, as you can see from the recommendation tonight, will be protecting green space for good, which means it will have a deed of dedication at Wick Green, which can be used for recreational purposes. Some development can go on it, but that is, for example, a play area or other such items, but not anything inappropriate, i.e. buildings, etc., without formal approval from Fields in Trust, and if it's not in keeping with the land, that would not happen. Now, in terms of protecting the land, if for any reason the land had to be used for anything else, land in the close proximity serving the same residents would have to be provided. As there is no other land in the proximity, it is effectively protecting the land in perpetuity. So before you tonight is to approve moving to Fields in Trust, and that I'm delegated the authority to be able to, with the solicitor, to submit that application.
Thank you, Mr Brace. Any members wishing to speak? Councillor Buckley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I did speak briefly to you prior to the meeting about this item, and I did want to make a slight amendment to the recommendations. On recommendation 1, it says that the application is submitted to Fields in Trust to protect council-owned land at Gibraltar Walk. That's not what that land is popularly known as in Wickford, and I would just like to insert the words after Gibraltar Walk, commonly known as Wick Green. I don't think that has any substantial bearing, and I think that's fairly straightforward. And on recommendation 2, I would just like to add the words after council on the end of recommendation 2 to be in consultation with the solicitor to the council and the leader of the council. And I think it is important that we have democratic control over this because, as you know, it's been a very sensitive issue over the past couple of years or so. And I think it is important that we have political control over the outcome. I know my colleague Councillor Jeffery wants to say a bit about the overall proposal, so I'll just keep my comments very brief and just say that I do think that it is important that we protect this piece of land. And we did have a motion at council, if you recall, back in I think it was February, which said that we would protect the land in perpetuity. Fields in Trust seems to be the most practical way of doing that. And I think when you look at the controls, which Mr Brace rightly mentioned, that even if a future administration, or even if you yourself had a brainstorm leader and decided you wanted to develop the land, you would not be able to do so without their approval. And I think that is a key protection for the site. I'm sure you wouldn't have that thought in your mind at all. But so I think that's important. Excuse me. And I think it's perhaps an indication of the level of support that Fields in Trust has an organisation, that the patrons of the charity is Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Cambridge, and I think with the substance of people of that magnitude behind them, and the current move towards trying to keep things as green as practical, I think we have a lot to say to ourselves. We can actually trust Fields in Trust to make sure that we do get the outcome that we want. But I think then, I don't know whether my colleague Councillor Jeffery will say anything about Patricia or Gilbert, but you know, they've been parts of this campaign, and it's been something which I think has taken the imagination of local residents, and I think it is important that we acknowledge the fact that was it not for the residents being concerned about this land, it would now have a tower block on it. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Obviously you need a seconder. I'm happy to second. I don't think it's anything that's particularly contentious. If members want to go through a debate on the amendment, or should we just take it as read that that's what it is? Haven't got anybody else wishing to speak apart from Councillor Jeffery. So Councillor Jeffery. Oh, sorry, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be abstaining on this item. We've had the debate on this item many times before. There was a previous plan under your watch, Mr. Chairman, to sell the land. When we came into power, we had a better offer to sell the land. Now there seems to be this idea of putting this land in trust. I genuinely don't have a problem with it, but as the leader, you will speak to your legal team. If it's safe to do it, you'll do the right thing, but I don't want to put the council's arm up its back. So I'm quite happy for it to be put in field of trust, but if the people the council were going to deal with decide to take action, my hand, by voting for it, might favour a developer taking this council to the dry cleaners. But you, as the leader, will know whether what's right or what's wrong, and I'm sure you've not put something forward that would have made that happen. So, but I don't know. I'm an opposition member. I don't get to speak to the officers as you do as leader. So, respectfully, I'll be abstaining on this item.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. I understand your points. And obviously, we would only ever want to do the right thing, and we rely upon officers to make sure that we do the right thing. We always believe in obeying the law from a council point of view, and I know that fellow opposition members, even when they've been in power, have also followed the law and done the right thing in that regard. And I would expect our officers to be very robust in any challenge were we to be doing or suggesting anything which was anything less than totally both transparent and right. But in the meantime, what we did do is we made a commitment to support the residents of Wickford, which I'm very, very pleased we followed through. Councillor Buckley and Councillor Jeffery have both been very, very robust in defending their position in Wick Green in representing the residents, and I thank them for that. I'm glad that we're now at a point where we get the thing that I know that residents have been waiting for a while, which is getting some element of certainty with regard to that area. Councillor Jeffery.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, I wanted to say that I had my support to the amendment that has been moved by Councillor Buckley. I'm very pleased that we are here this evening protecting this local green space. Through our action here tonight, it will finally protect this land from the threat of development and save it for perpetuity for future generations to enjoy. Residents fought a long, hard battle against Basildon Council since the original proposal of a pub and motel, and after that fell through, the prospect of a multi-storey building in the form of a care home. When the pub and motel proposal fell through, it was the perfect opportunity to leave this green space as it was and not under the looming threat of being sold for development. Bizarrely, we saw that the previous administration, led by the Labour Party, propped up by their Wickford Independent allies, push ahead despite the overwhelming local resistance. It appeared to many, particularly in Wickford, that the last administration came to the collective view that for any problem, Mr. Chairman, a tower block or a multi-storey building was not only the answer but the solution. The green space that we are seeking to place in a fields in trust is a cherished space and a green buffer from the town centre to Wick Meadows. With the approval of its sale by the previous administration, we've faced the prospect of concrete and brick from the car park to Cranfield Park Road. In this whole process, Mr. Chairman, tens of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money was wasted on consultants and surveyors after they failed to push through the previous development for this site. This money would have been better spent enhancing Wick Green, making it more enjoyable for those who walk through it from work or from shopping in the town centre on a Saturday. Recently, this land has even been host to a variety of local community events which would not have been imaginable with a multi-storey care home. As we move forward, we should seize the opportunity to invest in this land, exploring the possibility of a community orchard, a pollinator plan to bring in wildflowers, or more improved walk paths for people who want to walk around the green space, not just through it. There is really a lot we can do with Wick Green other than building a multi-storey building on it. In closing, I'd like to thank local residents, particularly Wickford SOS, who took the fight to this council, former administration, and those who are elected to it. Without your help and steadfast commitment to our town, we'd have seen this green space developed the local plan designation of HC5 for local open spaces and parks weakened and more traffic for entering and exiting the Wick. Finally, Mr Chairman, a special thanks to my colleague in the neighbouring ward of Wickford Councillor, Councillor Buckley, and to my former ward colleague Chris Jackman, whose help and counsel has proven invaluable in this campaign to save this green space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffery. This is a meeting in public rather than a public meeting, but we have had a member of the public have asked to speak, Mrs Childs, and I've always said that it's very important that we as councillors listen to the public voice and engage with the public and hear what they have to say. So I'd like to invite Mrs Childs to speak to the committee.
Thank you for listening to me. Wickford SOS was set up in March 2019 to save and protect Wick Green. It was set up by Chris Jackman, and I became involved at the very beginning because we believe this land should never have been put up for development. Wick Green means a great deal to the residents of the Wick. It's not only our green land, our lung, but it's also used by many pedestrians as it is our only access by foot to the town centre, train station, doctors, schools, etc. It has been used for picnics, walking dogs, joggers. We've had our Christmas service last year, and we have arranged another one this year. The land acts as a buffer between the Wick and the town centre, and is the nearest green open space for Wick residents. Yes, there is Wick Country Park and Netherden Park, but to some they are a car ride away, and we are all encouraged not to use our cars. It doesn't lend itself to any form of development, let alone a 3-storey care home, which will stand out, be overbearing, be stuck on the top of a hill. It would have dominated the whole landscape. Despite all the pretty diagrams, the access would have also been very difficult and dangerous, with little thought for those entering and exiting the Wick. In October-November of 2019, I met up with an officer of the council on Wick Green, where he agreed we could plant a Christmas tree, which we affectionately named Gilbert, donated to us by a local resident. In January 2020, it was confirmed that green was also added to the pollination plan. We were saddened to find that all the surrounding area was being given seeds for wildflowers, but Wick Green was sadly excluded from the programme. The local community feel very strongly that this land should be kept for wildlife such as pollinators or as a nature reserve. We would like to see residents and local groups be included in any decisions on cultivation of Wick Green. Wickford SOS, Chris Jackman and myself would like to thank Councillors Jeffery and Buckley for their involvement in our group, speaking out in support of saving Wick Green at committee meetings in the face of fierce resistance from opposing parties. I'd like to say thank you all for saving our local green space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Childs. No other member has indicated to speak, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? And abstentions? We have 3 abstentions and 5 in favour. The motion is carried. Thank you.